Jimmy Butler missed his last flight to save a crying child, and what happened next changed his life forever. Jimmy Butler had 15 minutes to catch the last flight of the day. He had an important appointment he couldn't miss. But when he heard the desperate cries of a lost child at the airport, he had to make the hardest decision of his life. What happened over the next few hours not only changed that child's life forever, but also completely altered Butler's perspective on what truly matters in life. Before we dive into this compelling story, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. This means a lot to us. Now let's continue with the story. Jimmy Butler was rushing through the crowded corridors of Terminal 3 at Miami International Airport, trying not to be late as the announcement echoed through the hall. It was a typical Tuesday in Miami, with a dark sky that looked like it was about to rain, and the airport was bustling with passengers carrying their luggage and rushing to catch their flights. Butler checked his iPhone again, 14:45. The Chicago flight had been delayed twice, and there were only 15 minutes left until the final call. This was no ordinary flight. He was heading to an annual charity event in memory of his late grandfather, Del Butler Sr. Hundreds of children were waiting for him at this event, which took place only once a year, and Butler planned to pay a special tribute to the man who had inspired him to play basketball. Final call for Flight 1247 to Chicago. Late passengers, please proceed immediately to Gate B12, a woman's voice announced over the loudspeaker. Butler quickened his pace, his Nike backpack swinging on his shoulder. He ran past a crowded Starbucks, past passengers dragging their noisy luggage, past families saying goodbye. He was almost at the gate when a sound stopped him in his tracks. Choked, intermittent sobs. A child was crying. Butler hesitated for a moment. He looked at his watch, then turned toward the direction of the sobs coming from behind the blue chairs in the waiting area. 15 minutes. Maybe 10, if he factored in the time it would take to reach the gate and board the plane. But the crying continued, a sound that cut through the constant noise of the airport. A voice filled with pure helplessness. Butler sighed and turned toward the chairs. There, curled up on the floor between two chairs, was a child of about 7 years old. He had messy black hair and brown skin. He was wearing a completely wrinkled yellow Golden State Warriors t-shirt and worn-out white sneakers. The child was crying, hiding his face in his arms, with a small blue backpack beside him. "Hey, buddy," Butler said softly, bending down to the child's height. "Are you okay?" The child lifted his tear-stained face and, upon recognizing the person in front of him, his eyes widened in shock. For a moment, he stopped crying, as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Jimmy Butler?" he whispered in English with a Spanish accent. "Yes, it's me. What's your name?" "Diego," replied the boy, wiping his nose with the sleeve of his t-shirt. "Diego Morales." "Diego, where are your mom and dad? Are you here alone?" The boy's face scrunched up again, and tears began to flow once more. "My mom. I can't find my mom. She's gone." Butler felt his stomach tighten. He quickly looked around. The airport was packed, with thousands of people moving in every direction. Finding a lost child there was like looking for a needle in a haystack. "Okay, Diego, take a deep breath with me," Butler said, sitting down next to the child. "When was the last time you saw your mom?" "She told me to wait here while she went to the bathroom," Diego said, sniffling. I don't know, it was a long time ago. I thought she forgot me." Final boarding call for Flight 1247 to Chicago. Boarding is now complete. Butler closed his eyes for a second. Chicago, the event, the waiting children, his respect for his grandfather, everything he had planned for the past few weeks. Then he looked at Diego, his red, swollen eyes, his slightly trembling little hands, the Warriors t-shirt that was probably his most prized possession. "Diego," Butler said, placing his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Come on, let's find your mom together, okay?" The boy looked at him with a mixture of hope and disbelief. You'll help me? Really?" "Really," Butler replied, feeling something settle inside him. "I won't leave you here alone." He heard the final announcement from the loudspeakers, confirming his decision. "Flight 1247 to Chicago is departing. Thank you." Butler took Diego's hand and stood up. "Come on, let's start looking." As they walked toward the information desk, Diego gripped Butler's hand tightly, as if it were the only thing in the world that was still solid in a place that had suddenly become vast and terrifying. Butler took out his cell phone and quickly sent a message to his wife. "Missed the flight. Will explain later. Love you." Behind them, through the large terminal window, an American Airlines plane slowly moved away from the gate, carrying other passengers toward Chicago. Butler didn't look back. The information desk was busy, with a line of at least 10 people ahead of them. Butler kept Diego by his side, noticing how the boy looked nervously at every woman who passed by, hoping that one of them would be his mother. "Next," called the employee, a middle-aged black woman with graying hair and a badge that read, "Brenda, 15 years of service." Butler approached with Diego. "Hello. This boy is looking for his mother. They got separated in the airport." Brenda looked at Diego with a maternal smile, then recognized Butler. Her eyes widened slightly, but she maintained her professionalism. "Oh my God, you're Jimmy Butler. My son is your #1 fan." She quickly composed herself. "Sorry, let's focus on what's important. Honey," she said to Diego, "what's your mommy's full name?" "Lucia Morales," Diego answered in a low voice. Brenda typed on the computer, frowning. "We have 3 lost children reports in the last 2 hours. The movement is very intense today because of yesterday's cancellations. Our search system is overloaded." "How long does it usually take?" asked Butler. "With the standard protocol, it can take 2 to 4 hours, sometimes more." But she leaned in conspiratorially. "I can speed up some things for you. I'll put a priority alert in the system." While Brenda worked, Butler knelt next to Diego. "Diego, tell me about your trip. Where are you going?" "Phoenix," said Diego, opening his backpack and taking out a crumpled paper. "To visit Tanta Elena. Mama saved a lot of money for this trip. She works very hard." Butler carefully took the paper. It was handwritten in Portuguese and English mixed. "Elena Martinez, Phoenix, 12.231042. The number was circled several times with blue pen. "Is this the first time you've been on a plane?" Diego nodded enthusiastically, momentarily forgetting his situation. "Yes. Mama said it's like flying like the birds. She's never been on a plane either. We live in Oakland." "Oakland is a cool city," said Butler. "Does your mother work there?" "She cleans offices at night and works in a restaurant kitchen during the day." Diego spoke with obvious pride. She said, "This trip is our prize for being a good team." Butler felt his chest tighten. Meanwhile, his cell phone was vibrating constantly. Messages from his agent, from the Chicago event organization, from sponsors. He silenced the phone. Brenda returned with a serious expression. "The problem is we have 3 terminals, and your mother could be in any of them. She might have gone looking for you in other places, or even be in the restricted area thinking you went to the bathroom there." "Can we see the security cameras?" asked Butler. "That requires special authorization and can take hours, but I can make some calls." Butler's phone rang. It was Issa. He answered. "Jimmy, where are you? I saw on the news that your flight took off." "I'm still at the airport. I found a lost child and I can't leave him alone." "Issa." There was a pause. Butler could imagine his wife processing the information. "A lost child, Jimmy? You have your grandfather's event." "I know," said Butler, looking at Diego, who was trying to dial his aunt's number on a nearby payphone. "But look at him, Issa. He's 7 years old. He's terrified. His mother works 2 jobs just to pay for this trip." Another pause, longer. "You're doing the right thing," said Issa finally, her voice softer. "The event can be rescheduled. This child needs you now." "I love you," said Butler. "I love you too. And Jimmy, your grandfather would be proud." Diego returned, frustrated. "Nobody answers at Tia Roa's house." "It's okay," said Butler, taking the boy's hand again. "Let's look for your mother around the airport. Brenda, can you give us a map of the terminals?" "Of course, and I'll put an announcement on the sound system every 15 minutes. As they left the information desk, Butler realized he was embarking on something that would completely change his day, maybe much more than that. But looking at Diego, who now walked beside him with renewed confidence, he knew there was no other path to follow. "To Jimmy," Diego said suddenly. "Tio," Butler smiled. "That's what we call the cool men in my family. You're cool." Butler felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with basketball, fame, or trophies. 3 hours later, Butler and Diego had covered almost all of Terminal 3. They passed by McDonald's, Subway, Hudson News, by the California souvenir shop where Diego looked with admiration at the teddy bears he couldn't buy. Butler discreetly bought a small Miami International Giants toy airplane and gave it to the boy, who held it like a talisman. "Let's check Terminal 1, said Butler, consulting the airport map that was already folded and refolded several times. They walked through the connecting walkway, passing dozens of hurried passengers. Diego was quieter now, fatigue beginning to weigh on him. Butler carried him on his back for a stretch, feeling how light the boy was, probably underweight for his age. "Tio Steph," said Diego, while they were sitting in a cafe sharing a chocolate muffin. "My mama always says I'm her little warrior." "Warrior?" asked Butler. "Yes. She says that when Papa left, the two of us became a special team, like the Warriors." Diego tried to smile, but his eyes were still worried. "Your father left?" Diego nodded. 2 years ago. Mama cried a lot, but she said we would be fine together, and we are. She teaches me to be strong." Butler felt a lump in his throat. He thought about his own children at home, about how lucky he was to have a united family, about how he had taken many things for granted. "You know, Diego, my family also taught me to be strong, but sometimes the strongest thing we can do is ask for help when we need it. Like now?" "Exactly like now." At that moment, Butler's cell phone rang. It was a number he recognized from the Chicago event organization. "Jimmy, where the hell are you?" came the irritated voice of the organizer. "We have 300 children here waiting. The press is asking." "Craig, I'll explain later. I had an emergency." "What kind of emergency could be more important than—" Butler hung up the phone. For the first time in his life, he put something above a professional commitment, and that was both liberating and scary. "Who was it?" asked Diego. "Work," said Butler simply. "Did you miss work because of me?" Butler looked into the boy's worried eyes. "Diego, sometimes the most important things aren't on our schedule." They continued the search. In Terminal 1, they stopped at every store, every restaurant. Butler used his fame strategically, asking employees to check women's bathrooms, asking if anyone had seen a Hispanic woman desperately looking for a child. It was in the airport's ecumenical chapel that they had a real moment of pause. Diego sat on a bench and was quiet for the first time in hours. "Mama sometimes comes to churches when she's worried," he said. "She lights candles and talks to God." "What does she talk about?" "About me. About how she wants to give me a better life. About how she feels lonely sometimes." Butler sat next to Diego on the bench. The chapel was silent, a surreal contrast to the chaos of the airport outside. "You know your mother loves you very much, don't you?" "Yes," said Diego with conviction. "She tells me every day, even when she's very tired from work. And I bet you love her very much too, more than anything in the world." At that moment, Butler realized he was witnessing something pure and profound. The unconditional love between mother and son, something that transcended circumstances, money, or social status, something that made him question his own priorities. When they left the chapel, it was already 6:00 p.m. They had been searching for more than 4 hours. Other airport employees had joined the search. Security guards, cleaning staff, even store employees who left their shifts to help. The story of Jimmy Butler helping a lost child had spread discreetly among the workers, creating an improvised support network. "Maybe she already went to Phoenix," said Diego with a small voice, looking at a plane taking off through the large terminal window. "No," said Butler firmly. "A mother would never leave her child. Never. She's here, looking for you as desperately as you're looking for her." But internally, Butler was beginning to worry too. What if Lucia had really panicked and taken a flight? What if something had happened to her? What if— "Mr. Butler," a female voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Brenda from the information desk, running toward them with an urgent expression on her face. "We found her." "Where?" Butler and Diego asked at the same time. "Airport medical sector," said Brenda, still catching her breath. "A Hispanic woman fainted from anxiety about an hour ago. She was in a state of panic." talking about her lost son, repeating the name Diego several times. The paramedics are taking care of her now. Diego started running before Brenda even finished speaking. Butler followed him, his heart beating fast, part relief, part anxiety about Lucia's condition. The medical sector was in the airport's basement, accessed by elevators that seemed to take forever to descend. Diego bounced with anxiety, holding the toy airplane so tight that his knuckles were white. "What if it's not Mama?" asked Diego, his voice tremulous. "It will be her," said Butler, with a conviction he forced himself to feel. "I'm sure." The elevator doors opened to a white and sterile corridor. Brenda quickly guided them to a room where paramedics and nurses moved calmly. And there, on a stretcher, was a small woman with dark hair tied in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a light pink blouse. "Mama!" Diego's scream echoed through the corridor. Lucia opened her eyes immediately, still disoriented, but seeing her son running toward her, she sat up on the stretcher so quickly that a nurse had to steady her. "Diego! Dios mío! Diego!" Mother and son embraced with an intensity that made everyone present stop what they were doing. Lucia cried and spoke rapidly in Spanish, checking Diego from head to toe as if she wanted to make sure he was really there, whole and safe. Butler stood a few meters away, watching the reunion with a lump in his throat. The pure emotion of the moment. Lucia's relief, Diego's happiness, the obvious love between them, hit him like a wave. Lucia finally noticed Butler standing there. Her eyes widened in recognition, then in confusion. You are," she said in hesitant English. "Jimmy Butler," said Diego proudly. "He helped me look for you. He's my tío now." Lucia tried to get up from the stretcher, but was still weak. "Senor Butler, you know, I don't know how to thank you. English is not—" "You don't need to thank me," said Butler, approaching. "How are you feeling?" Scared," said Lucia, alternating between English and Spanish like Diego did. "You fue, and when I came back, Diego wasn't there. I looked everywhere. I thought, Dios mío, alguien lo ha llevado." The paramedic, a young man with a Texan accent, explained, "She had a classic panic attack. Low blood sugar, too. Probably didn't eat anything all day from nerves. She needs to rest and hydrate." "Mama," said Diego, "you were looking in the wrong place. I stayed where you told me to stay." Lucia closed her eyes, laughing and crying at the same time. "I'm sorry, Micho. So scared." Butler knelt beside the stretcher. "Lucia, do you have accommodations in Phoenix tonight?" "No. Our flight was at 6 p.m. We're staying at my sister's house." "The last flight to Phoenix today already left," said Brenda, who had stayed to follow the situation. "The next one is only tomorrow morning." Butler saw the panic return to Lucia's eyes. "But I have to work tomorrow night. If I miss it, I lose my job." "Don't worry about that now," said Butler gently. "I'll take care of you tonight. Hotel, food, and I'll make sure you catch the first flight tomorrow." "Senor Butler, I cannot accept—" "I'm going to. I wanted to help Diego. It wasn't a waste of time. It was one of the best days of my life. Let me complete what I started." 3 hours later, Lucia and Diego were settled in a hotel near the airport. Butler had organized everything discreetly: room, meals, flights for the next day. But more importantly, he had spent the night talking with them. Lucia told her story, how she came from Mexico at 16, how she worked various jobs to raise Diego alone, how she saved every penny for this special trip. Diego showed his basketball drawings and talked about his dreams of playing in the NBA one day. "It's not about playing in the NBA," said Butler to Diego the next morning at the airport. "It's about working hard, treating people well, and never giving up on your dreams, whatever they may be." At the moment of goodbye, Diego hugged Butler tight. "Tio Jimmy, are you going to forget me?" "Impossible," said Butler. "You taught me something very important these days." "What?" "That sometimes the most important plans are the ones we don't make." Butler was on the stage at Casella Center, but not to play basketball. It was the launch of the Lucha and Diego Foundation, a fund he had created to help low-income families with travel costs to visit relatives or access medical care. In the front row, Lucha, now with a better job that Butler had helped her get, applauded next to Diego, who wore a new Warriors jersey. 6 months ago, said Butler to the audience, I missed a flight. I thought it would be a tragedy, but it was actually the most important moment of my life, because I met a little boy who taught me that success isn't measured in championships or money. It's measured in the moments when we decide to put humanity above our own convenience. Butler looked at Diego in the audience. Diego still calls me Tio Steph. He wants to be like me when he grows up, not because I play basketball, but because he sees that helping others is more important than any game. The audience stood up and clapped, but Butler could only see Diego. Diego made a heart sign with his small hands and smiled with the same pure smile that had changed everything that day at the airport. Sometimes, Butler thought, the flights we miss take us exactly where we need to be. What would you have done if you were in Jimmy's shoes? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring real-life stories.